Hi, this is Mark Costco in Jackson, Mississippi. Here I'm sharing part 2 of an UGG syndrome case. This is that image you just saw there, and this image here, that's a freeze frame, is what the patient looked like a week or so after the part 1 surgery. We had removed a single piece of acrylic that was rubbing the back of the iris and had replaced it with a 3-piece in optic capture, and we knew that the amount of capture was somewhat limited. The original Rexus had been a little bit awkwardly too large, so we knew our capture was borderline, but we really thought at the end of the first surgery, which was the part 1 video, if you've seen that yet, we really thought it was in good shape, so we decided to keep it simple and leave it. But as you saw on the title slide, as well as the first image, the lens ended up popping out of capture. I think it was probably captured by posterior capsule, and that the posterior capsule, it was ultimately not a continuous curvilinear posterior rexus, and I assume it just eventually like tore or something, and then the lens decentered. What we're doing here is making markings for Yamane fixation. If you watch any of my videos, you know that I am very meticulous on these markings. I just don't think you can trust, quote unquote, eyeballing it. So I use frequently a Menendez ring, and it might be hard to see, but I've marked 2 as well as 2.5 millimeters posterior, and then the other marks will be the other end of the tunnels at 2.5. So viscoelastic. You may say, "Oh, come on, Costco, that lens is not that decentered." It was more than the decentration. It was sitting, ultimately one side of it was kind of tilted, angled up, really close to the iris, and like the patient, he just really wanted to make sure that he was done with UGG, and it just ultimately, the 3-dimensional view at the slit lamp and the OR microscope was just not stable, and so and his vision was not great either, so I really felt like we needed to come back and Yamane fixate it, and I absolutely stand by that. It was the right call, and so that's what we're here doing in this part 2 video, is converting to a Yamane fixation. So we have good markings, we have plenty of viscoat. In this case, I am using an AC maintainer. What I've done there is I've externalized what you might think of as the leading haptic. And here I've got my 30 gauge ultra thin walled TSK needle. I'm making a scleral tunnel incision. I'm holding the syringe, so you can see the needle inside the eye. I'm going to feed that in. This is just typical Yamane stuff. I apologize for the focus. I realized in editing the part 1 video and the part 2 video, part 1 video is very in focus. This video it's like the whole video is subtly out of focus. I think someone had adjusted the focus on the camera, anyways, so I feel like this video is not quite as high quality, crisp, but nonetheless, I think you can see what we're doing here. Now we're going to go for the second haptic here, making our tunneled entry, you'll see the needle inside the eye. There you go. And we'll bring the haptic into the eye here. Again, this is where the focus is the worst. Now, I'm not trying to feed the haptic in just yet. I'm going to rest it there. That allows you to re-grasp a little bit closer. It's a little tricky. Of course, it caught a little bit, but I just wanted to re-grasp a little bit closer. and that's all you have to do to get just a little bit of it in there. So then I usually will do a simultaneous needle withdrawal. Prior to this video, we had still never seen rotisserie of any of these lenses, so but of course everybody's familiar that can happen, so I'm real careful with my technique to have no stress on the optic-haptic junction. You can look in the image and see at the optic-haptic junction here, you can see a little bit of splay, and that's just because it's a large eye. And you have to externalize a little bit of the haptic to make a bulb. So this is low temp cautery. We will make a little bulb on the end of that haptic. We'll come over here to the other side, do the same thing. But overall, we've been very careful with our markings to get good centration. We've been real careful with our technique to minimize any trauma on the optic-haptic junction. And we're going to bury those haptics. Now, you'll notice it almost looks like the lens is sort of decentered towards the top of the screen a little bit, but there I'm showing you, like, notice this, the amount of iris that's showing, like it's a little bit more dilated at the bottom right of this screen than it is at the top left of the iris. So ultimately, I really do feel it's got good centration. One nice thing about this CT Lucia lens is that it is very forgiving with centration issues. But here I think we're actually centered. So here we're just closing the conj. Some of my cases I will take conj down for Yamane, some of them I do not. If in cases where I'm going to be real OCD on placement and centration, and this patient is, I could just read him and tell. I actually talked to him about, like, do you want a little bit less scratchiness, maybe a slightly quicker recovery, or would you rather have a little scratchiness, a little recovery, and like a little bit better chance of perfect centration? And he definitely wanted the latter. So here we're just removing all the viscoelastic. I've got this at high speed. But fortunately, the case we've done here finally, quote unquote, fixed the patient. He is several weeks out now and not a single red blood cell whatsoever in his eye. He does have about 2 diopters of astigmatism. And he's been at least mildly disappointed by that. He is a very detail-oriented patient, and really was hoping for 20/20 no glasses. He is 20/20 with mild astigmatism glasses. See a little reflection on the lens there. That's at the slit lamp with my iPhone. But he has done awesome, and I'm really excited for him to finally have UGG syndrome behind him. So thank you so much for watching.